Hello, hello, hello. We are almost live. Yeah. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Lucille Live. Another great session. Going to be extremely insightful. Going to be loads of fun. Going to also be a lot of learning, a lot of teachings from our guest speaker. We are going outside of South Africa today. Our guest speaker is all the way from Nigeria. We are speaking to Jane Egerton. I'm going to try and pronounce the last part without messing up. Idehen. She is really an inspiring woman who is doing amazing things in her space. And I invited her to be a guest today because I really do believe that there's a lot of value that she can impart onto women all over the world. She has a similar kind of organization to Leading Women called Women and Careers. So yeah, we're just going to speak a bit more to her and get to, pick her brain. She is definitely one educated woman. She's got a master, an MBA. She's studied at Warwick in the UK. She's also an alumni of Yale and Harvard. She's done it all. I'm going to add Jane on because she is here with us. Let us welcome Jane to Lucille Live. Okay, she's just connecting. Hey,
Hi, Lucille.
how are you?
I'm
How are you?
fine.
Yeah, how is Nigeria?
Nigeria is fine. Can you hear me? I don't know why the
Yeah,
volume looks low.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh,
Yeah.
Nigeria is fine. Nigeria is fine.
And how is Nigeria dealing with COVID-19?
Girl, that's the sad part, eh? The numbers are climbing. We're trying to manage. They've eased off the lockdown, but the numbers are still climbing. And yeah, businesses are trying to cope. Companies are trying to cope. But yeah, it's something we have to work on.
But have they opened up economic activity?
Yeah, economic activities because we've eased off the lockdown, so it's beginning to, people are beginning to go back to work, but it's not like it used to be. It's still a bit trying to manage the risk, social distancing, keeping your hands clean, sanitizing, wearing the face masks, and most companies are working at a reduced capacity. Like not everybody comes to work at the same time, or people come on certain days, so not to create
Oh,
you don't want to create crowds, or you don't want people sitting together, so you can have enough social distance.
oh, okay, 100%. Okay, well, it's just pretty much the same thing that's happening in South Africa. People are going back to work, but it's limited capacities. Most of them, I think it's 30% allowed to have, and then as far as possible have people work from their homes. I think that's the new kind of normal for everybody, most parts of the country. Well, the world actually, not just the country, but yeah. So Jane, you are so many things. You are a tech communications executive, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a mom, you're a leader, those are all the things that I know about you. Tell us what we don't know about you. Who is Jane?
I'm just a young lady trying to live the best and give the best of who she is. But yeah, like you said, those are all other things. But I'm also passionate, really about helping other women.
Uh-huh.
I'm passionate about, making sure I grow my family and, pass on to my kids the values that I think are important to them. I love a challenge, for those of you that don't know. And sometimes I'm driven by a challenge. Some of the things I do, actually, I was just driven by a challenge. If you tell me it can't be done, if you tell
Yeah.
me, oh, other people haven't done it, and you've just piqued my interest, then I'll be interested to do it.
Okay. I think from what I know about you is that when you are working in the tech space, which is predominantly a male, it's a male-dominated space and industry. What stood out for you about being a female in that space? What led you to that space?
So just like I said, actually, I more like came into the space because I thought it was a challenge. As a young kid, I had my mom. She was talking with a friend of hers, and the friend was, I was eavesdropping, and the friend went on about, oh, how engineering is difficult, and very few people do it. And I just heard them saying it was difficult. I'm like, oh well, if it's difficult, that's the one I want to do. So as a young child, I was
Okay.
probably more intrigued by the challenge. But I went into engineering because I just loved the fact that it was somewhere I thought I could solve problems and use my analytical skills to solve problems. And when I got into the space, like every young engineer, I was just very passionate to grow in that tech space. And I would say in the early days, I didn't see gender. It was there, but not like it was it wasn't so obvious to me. Because I was used to, I had studied engineering, so you're used to sitting in a class where it's just 10 girls out of 100 men, or 10 women out of 100 men. So it's always been that ratio. You don't see a lot of women. It could be
Yeah.
because of the biases, culture, environment, all the things. So it's always been few. But I think what really hit me was as I started to grow my career, you aspire. I wanted to climb, and I wanted aspiring to go higher, higher. And I noticed as I went higher, you saw fewer women, and I got a bit intrigued. Wow, why are we having fewer women? You know, Initially there was quite a lot of us as we got into the industry, but as you start to climb the ladder, you tend to
Yeah.
see fewer women. And I think that got me really curious to find out, why are there few women at the top.
Okay. Was it easy to get to the top? Did it take you time, or was it something that, it was quite a seamless journey to the top?
Nah, I wouldn't say it was easy, and it wasn't seamless, and it's not like a straight journey. You understand? Because
Yeah.
I'll tell you one trick. There's a role I got. So I used to write my goals. You know how you write the goals in the journal? I want to do
Uh,
this. I want to be this. I remember I wrote that goal, like, oh, I want to get to this position by this year or something. I only got to that position 7 years later.
okay.
7 years. And I knew some of my male folks got there faster. Like, it took me 7 years to get there. So when people ask you, oh, you're so lucky you're here, I'm like, well, I wish you know the other part of the story. Of course, I'm grateful. But I want to say, as a woman, I started to see where some of the hurdles were. You know how it is, especially when we start getting married and
Yes.
that childbearing age. For loads of women, the career starts to slow down because it just becomes difficult to combine all those things. The way your performance is being graded in the office is almost contrary to what you're trying to do. You're a woman, you have kids, and kids will have to go to the hospital when they need to go to the hospital. They fall ill at will. You cannot predict it. You might be ready for a
Yes.
meeting and you get a call that your son is sick. You have to take him to the hospital. If it's a toddler, if it's a baby, you have to go. And, there goes your meeting or your trip. So even though you try to mitigate it, you bring in support, you still have to show up for
Yes.
the family. And I noticed at that phase, it was tougher for the women. The men can get by faster. I've not
Yeah.
heard of any man that, because his son got a fever, he says he will show up to work. Most women will probably try
Oh
and figure out how to
God.
solve it. The guy will show up to work. He will show up to work.
Yeah. Oh,
Because you're maybe, I don't know, something happened and, you have to cancel a trip for your son or your daughter. The nanny. Take for example, if you do have a nanny and your nanny doesn't show up, a normal guy will go to work. He will leave that to his wife to figure out how to solve that. But if it was a
yes.
woman, if the nanny doesn't show up, that's a crisis because you have to figure out, how am I going to take care of these toddlers while I'm at the office? So that becomes a
Yeah.
crisis, or you have to try to attend to. So it's slightly tougher because the challenges are unique in themselves. And in the organizations we work, sometimes we are not aware, either because most times the companies are tone deaf, they don't know, or sometimes because the do not really replicate what is happening in society. That's what we're saying. When you have fewer women at the top, these issues don't come to bear. So the guys are wondering, why didn't you show up for the 8 o'clock meeting? Like, you're like, oh, my nanny didn't show up. She was meant to show up at 7. Well, guys, that's a problem. You should have just still come. And I'm like, no, I can't come. I have a toddler. Now, what's going to happen to the toddler? I have to figure out what to do, how to address that situation. So those kind of challenges will
And
hit you as a woman.
it's very weird that you'll find that men are constantly advocating for saying, no, we understand, we get it. But when situations happen, it's like, that you like, didn't this person just say they understand? But the answers that will come are obviously their natural responses to such reactions, like, you should have made another plan or whatever. And then only afterwards does it come to them, actually, no, let me practice a bit of more empathy, sensitivity, to the situation. But that's naturally delayed actions from most men, such things. But okay, Jane, so you are a corporate individual. You are a country manager for Avanti Communications. You do all of these things. You're studying. And what inspired you to write a book? Books, actually. Because I know you've got Own the Room and Bring Your A Game, which is published on www.womenandcareer.com. And then you've got your book, Befearless, which is also, by the way, guys, available on Amazon. So anyone can purchase it from Amazon. What inspired you to write your book, Befearless?
So I always tease that my daughter is the muse for the book. So, but it was at that point in my life, I was really, because I was like mentoring other younger women, younger people, you're really giving back. But I really had young kids. My daughter was probably 4 and my son was 7. And I was thinking, how could I pass on all those experiences to them? I really wanted to. I wanted them to have a preview of what was happening and learn from it. It becomes like the tools they would use in their future. And I thought the best way to do that was to document it. And that's how I started writing. So I was really pouring out myself. And I always tell myself, the first title I gave to that book, Befearless, was actually a letter to my daughter. Because I saw it as a letter to my daughter. And my daughter being the metaphor for my younger self. Like, what would you tell your younger self? If you had to go on this journey again, what are the things you want to share? And it's like when you found some good thing, you want to share it with other people. And I really wanted to share it with my younger self. And my daughter being that metaphorical younger self. So that's really what inspired me. So, and I love that fact because I tell people, like, while I was writing the book, there were times in the book where I kind of felt stuck. Sometimes it was like I had one of this writer's block. Some days you're not even too sure, what am I writing? But because I was being inspired by my daughter, I always asked myself, what are you trying to say to Sarah? So my daughter's name is Sarah. So I'll be like, what do you want to say to Sarah? What are you trying to tell her? And it gave me clarity. And I think it also forced me to be vulnerable. Because I think with your kids, you want to be truthful, especially if you're thinking you're passing something on to them. To somebody else, you might be a bit, careful with the truth, or you want to portray an image. But I think to your kids, you owe it to them to tell them what it really is you're trying to share, because you're trying to empower them. So that was my inspiration for writing the book, Befearless.
Okay. How was the writing process, the journey, especially because I believe you've self-published, right? And you've done all your on your own, How has all of that helped you grow as a person?
Self-publishing, there is no easy one, eh? It costs you some coins. It costs you some coins. But I think most first writers self-publish. And if you look at it from a market point of view, if your book is not, traditional publishers are probably most times looking for a particular genre. And if yours doesn't fit it, it's normally tougher. So they might be looking for a fiction, erotic book, or, so sometimes, for first publishers, if you don't fit in those modes, you're forced to, go ahead and self-publish. But the whole process itself, I think it really forced me to come to the party, because now you've got to write the book, which is a process in itself. And you've got to make sure that the book is published. So the whole editing, proofreading, literally making the cover itself is a whole big process. I didn't know it was that tricky, because the process of making the cover, like, it really has to speak to the, to the title of the book or what you're
Yeah.
trying. It's like a whole art piece in itself, choosing, making sure the work is edited to suit the audience, the English, the grammar. Is it American English? Is it British English? How many words do you want? What's the size of the book? All those things you're considering, and you still have to edit it to have good quality. Like, I promise anybody trying to write a book, no matter how good you are, please don't edit your own work. Get somebody else to edit it, because mentally
Wow.
you tend not to see the errors because you're reading it in your mind rather than looking at the words. So, that whole process is there. But there's even the process of writing the book, which I thought was, initially when I was writing, I thought that was the toughest part, because it took me over a year to write the book. And sometimes it
Wow.
was draining. Like, it's like
Yes.
you're giving birth. That's how I felt. I felt like I was giving birth. Some days you feel so
Yeah.
vulnerable, like I'm putting all those things out there that everybody knows my business. Some days because you're trying to recall sometimes very painful memories. It's not everything that you're so ecstatic or happy, because you're looking at it from a reflective point of view. You're trying to
Yeah.
extract the lessons. So you're trying to stand out as a third party. So that whole process itself was there. Then you come to the you're thinking of also promoting the book. Oh, Lucille, that's another whole trick on its own, like, but left to me, I don't want to
Yeah.
be on social media all the time.
Wow. But I
Yeah,
see you've really, well, I see you've really, like, especially because you've done it yourself. Big up you. I've seen you out there. I've seen you pushing your
yeah.
work. Getting onto that are relevant to push the agenda of your book, and you've done really well. You mentioned just
Thank you.
now of being exposed and putting your feelings out there for everyone to see. As a corporate professional thinking of writing a book, did that not worry you that people would either your peers in especially at an executive level or so for, or those your subordinates, judging you based on your experiences that you tell in the book or your views? Was that not a factor for you?
It was, I think, for a while. Maybe that's one of the reasons I shied away. So I kept being told to do it. But I
Mm.
think the thing with confidence, it builds up. You just don't become overly confident one day. I write a little bit of article, I get a bit confident when people say, "Oh, I loved it, I learned from it," and people send you these messages. So you write a bit more. You test the waters, and as your confidence tend to build, one of the things that would also help, and that helped me, is to know why you're doing it. I think if
Yes.
the
Well,
why is bigger than all the other questions and fears and reservation, you mostly go ahead. And that's why I named the book Be
yeah.
Fearless. That becomes your courage. When you're driven by the why, like, it keeps you awake. You're like, I have to really do this. So if you have a big why, most times it puts you above all the reservations and fears, and you still go ahead.
Is that my signal? I'm broke just.
To give all that information about myself or what I think,
Yeah.
or you're trying to be a bit careful. But I think what really kept me is that if you knowing my story and where I came from, I
Uh-huh.
felt this is what I could have done to help the younger Jane. Like, I grew up in the slums.
Uh-huh.
Lucille, I came from the slums. And most times you want people to really tell you what it takes to go on that journey. You don't want people to give it to you at the surface level. People didn't just
Yes.
show up successful in the blink of an eye. The entire process, they failed, they got at it, they got no's. Some first time they did something, they failed and they failed and they failed. And I thought I owe it to some young person out there to share that story. So they know that, you see me today, people see us today. We weren't just born like this. There's a whole journey. There's a process to it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You own your journey and work on it. Don't expect that things will change overnight. But with time, if you're consistent, you can get there.
Yes. No, 100%. I mean, the journey to success, one of the real core things is consistency. You got to just keep going, no matter the failures along the path. You know, which we all know that the failures are. You know, you learn from those things. So you really just got to be consistent. So, Jane, as a we, you know, having you on this platform, the majority of people that will be viewing it, you know, are also curious about Nigerian culture and what is Nigerian culture in terms of women and careers? What is the general culture around that?
I think just like I think mostly Africans is there's a lot of patriarchy, is patriarchal in nature. So it's more
Yeah.
male oriented, is built around the masculine folks. So I'll give you an example. Even though Nigeria is multi-ethnic, so there are lots of ethnic groups. So we have the three main
Yeah.
ones: the Igbos, the Yorubas, and the Hausas. I'm Igbo. Up until like a couple of years
Oh,
ago, this is now changed by legislation by legislation. But up until a couple of years ago, I couldn't inherit any property uh, from my parents. The culture does not accommodate that. Yes, it doesn't. So you're
wow.
expected to marry, and hopefully,
Uh-huh.
when you marry, your husband will, probably. So you can imagine the the financial. It just didn't empower women financially. If is in her father's home, and the culture expects that she would get support from if she marries. So what happens if she doesn't marry? We've already defined her by marriage to say the society says if you don't marry, then you don't have a place. So when you have that kind of those kind of challenges, it's almost like the odds are stacked against you from birth. And we see
Yeah.
that a lot. That even in our customs in marriage, traditionally, you are married, and almost like the way it's said in the local language, it's almost
Yeah.
like they own you. We've married you, we own you. And that's why
Wow.
we pay a bride price on your head. So if you're naughty and you're not good, we can return you and collect back
This-
our money. Yeah, yeah, you can return the wife if you're not happy with what you purchased. So now, okay, we are
wow.
laughing about it, but there's implication to some of these cultural norms. It just means that a woman will really struggle to define her place, especially if you go to in-laws that treat you like, oh, we can easily return you. It takes a lot of courage to know that this thing shouldn't define me. Like, I won't be
Yes.
defined by if you're interested to keep me or return me. I'm nobody's object to be owned. But it's tough, for us, those of us that are empowered, we can make this, we can talk about it in this manner. For women that are not empowered, it's a big issue, especially where I come from, especially among widows, especially when you lose the man, it becomes, it's almost like you're not, you could be passed on to people you don't even think you should be passed on to. So
Wow.
in the old times, you could be married off to another of the relative without your without having any consent to it. So those kind of patriarchal nature, it could be limiting for women. That's why when it even comes to these our current our current phase in life, or our current generation, you
Yeah.
tend to see subliminal messages. People will be risk averse when it comes to the female gender in terms of sending them to school or empowering or equipping them, because they feel like, she's going to get married anyway. Let's focus on the men. Let's empower the men because they will be with us. They're going to bear the name. So we have to empower them. And these things don't help, especially if it's a society where we know it's both male and female. And for the society to be productive, male and female have to be productive. We can't empower one and not
Yeah.
empower the others. We are actually shooting ourselves at the foot.
No, 100%. And times have changed so much, and more women. I'm really proud of the number of women that I'm seeing who are actually standing up for themselves and owning their space, and going for their dreams, building their own legacies. And I see that a lot in South Africa. Like we all come from the history of oppression of women and the inequalities of women. And every day I'm getting to witness and see how women are rising above. Women are doing more. Women, they are making themselves seen and heard. Especially in our country at the moment. Wow, we're going through a lot when it comes to.
I know.
And it's an Africa thing, but South Africa is really going through a lot. But I'm proud of the way a lot of women are speaking up for themselves. I don't think that this is really something new in South Africa. I think it's been happening for all the years. Women have been going through a lot at the hands of violence inflicted on them by men. But not many women were talking out. Not many, people, and I think also social platforms has assisted in the part giving people a platform to speak out. Which is a great thing, and I'm just hoping that more women speak out, more women learn from other women on the platforms, and seeing the words that are being spread by other women. That it's okay. I know a lot of women tend to say that you don't know because you're not in the situation. You don't understand what I'm going through, and rightfully so. We don't understand what you're going through, but we do know that you need to live your life. You only get one life, and that's all that you got to put first. Find a way, whether it's going to be not going to be your perfect world, but there has to be an alternative to staying with an abusive husband, partner, or there has to be an alternative for you. So Jane, sorry, before I can go on and on about the gender violence thing, it's like
I know, and
a lot.
I think that's one of the things we must be, just to speak to what you're saying, Lucille. That's one of the things we must be very happy for what social media has done. And I think it's helping give women a voice. Like you said, this oppressive nature has been there probably, but now people have a platform to really put it out there and say, this is what is happening. And because there's a platform, even the perpetrators themselves, I think, will be more. But I think more importantly, even government needs to do something. We have to have policy that protect women, so that they're not just easily treated like objects.
Yes. No, I think, and it's I just wish more men also would rise and stand up against this, or do more. But we'll go into this whole thing about men. We'll be talking here until 10 o'clock tonight about the lack of involvement by men of speaking to their friends, colleagues, that they know that are abusing women, but yeah, that's a story for another day. So Jane, we going through COVID times. You in the tech, in a lot of businesses have changed to have a more digital outlook on things. Do you think that this is just a passing phase through COVID, or is it something that businesses are going to take on forever?
That's an interesting question. I think, like, my kids always ask me, when is it going to be over? Because for them, is when is it going to be over? And I keep telling them it might not be over the way we see it. I don't think we're going to wake up one day and COVID is gone. I think maybe the impact will be less. We would have managed it, just like any virus, like polio and all that. But I think what it has shown is that we're in a transitional phase and we're moving into a whole new reality. Because it's forced us to understand that to survive, we have to, this whole about being digital, we need that, because one of the impacts we found with COVID was that the only way to beat that virus was not to be physically present, but we still needed to operate. And it just made a huge case for going digital. If businesses, if governments, if individuals still had to operate, the only way was to do it remotely, and that's online. I think it's come to stay. Maybe not in the way we've seen it. So there'll be elements of it that would stay. I don't think all the elements will, like, I wouldn't say forever and everybody's going to work from home, but the idea of working from home has come to stay. The idea of remote work will come to stay. The idea of outsourcing work beyond a physical environment has come to stay. So there will be models of it or hybrid versions of it. The idea of online education has come to stay because we will go back to it whenever we have any challenge close to this again. So the idea of making sure businesses are online, it becomes a
Yeah.
mitigation for any other challenge in the future. You know, why is it that if you have an issue like this, we cannot, the banks can run. The banks can't run, businesses can't run. Businesses can't run, the economy is shut down. You know, we have to start thinking about it. So I think it's come to stay from that sense. But in terms of being as severe as it was, as in we have a lockdown and literally there
Yes.
was no movement, I think there'll be probably a hybrid. There'll be elements of that that will not, you know, at least the lockdowns are being eased up. So those kind of elements will probably not be there.
Okay, and what does that mean for people and the employment rates, and what happens to people? I know that a lot of companies were already moving to digital. This is basically just accelerated that whole the whole change of moving towards digital platforms. But what does this happen? How does this affect employment, especially in Nigeria? What is happening with regard to employment losses?
So I think one of the things it has done is force us to accelerate the digital process, because a lot of time we've been talking about digital in Africa, everyone, oh, digital
Yeah.
divide, how do we bridge the divide? Now, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things this has shown is that there's a huge divide, you know, apart from the cities. So when there was a lockdown, apart from Lagos, very
Mm-hmm.
few of the cities could operate. I could order a pizza in Lagos if I wanted. If I was in another place, maybe Onitsha, where I'm from, I couldn't order a pizza. That wouldn't work. Even while I was in Lagos, I could still get a lot of services, but I would get them online. I could get,
Okay.
or I could shop online, get it delivered to my house. But if I was in Onitsha, Abia State, Ogun State, I couldn't. So it just means that there was almost like we had two countries in one. Some parts of the country were still operating remotely, other parts like physically shut down. Nothing was working. So I think it just made a case. Yeah. So, and the same thing for schools as well. My kids were schooling, but 90% of the country wasn't schooling.
Yeah, because I mean
And
those
I
are
don't think that's not what we want.
yeah, and those are schools in rural areas that don't have access to technology, don't have laptops and things to do any kind of online
They
schooling.
don't
And I
have
think
internet.
that's the biggest challenge also in our country is that, okay, so you're saying online schooling, who's capacitated, who's helping the child in the rural area that can barely, parents can barely afford school shoes, who
Yeah.
helps them? What happens with them? So I think that is, especially in Africa, there were a lot of children, because I mean we've got predominantly rural areas in the rest of Africa. So what happens in those situations? So I think it was a problem. It still is a problem, even now. Okay, so now we're phasing kids back. How are we keeping these kids safe? They can't afford masks. They can't afford sanitizers. How are we protecting the rural areas? And I think that's a government problem, throughout the country. How has the Nigerian government responded to that call, so to that problem?
So I know that there's a whole COVID team trying to address it. But what I know is that for a long time, just like Ghana, we had what we call a broadband plan. And the idea of the broadband plan or the digital economy plan we launched it last year, like an updated version, was a plan on how we're going to provide broadband service, internet
Mm-hmm.
service, how we're going to create a whole digital economy for Nigeria. It was
Yeah,
a good plan on paper, girl. When you read it, it looks like a very good plan. But a
always
plan only works if you implement it, you see?
yeah, yeah.
It only
No,
works because 5 years before, we had another plan.
uh-huh.
So 5 years before, we had another plan, but loads of things in that plan were not implemented, and they were put in the new plan when we updated it. So a plan is as good as having the willpower to really implement it. And I think that's
Yeah,
what COVID is calling us out for. It's like, you got to do this thing. You can't keep having plan on paper that you're going to provide broadband access or internet access to people in the rural areas. You provide e-health. a smart agriculture, all those things you want to do, even for people beyond the cities, but you
Yes.
never did it. And now, COVID was a test of that, because once you're not in the city, you can't even have access to tests for COVID, e-health services. Most of them didn't have it. People always had to physically go to a testing center to be tested.
Yeah.
And we know that outside, you don't have to,
Yeah.
you don't have to. If you have access to e-health,
Is there some change coming from the government perspective now? As I mean, COVID is forcing many people and even our government into into changes. The papers, are they working now? The plans that were on paper, are they being forced? Are they feeling any kind of pressure from the communities, the people of Nigeria to make those changes?
so yes, there's been quite a lot of pressure, because everybody's now calling out like we should have done this, or we should have done that. I know some of the things that have happened is that we started seeing some changes because of the way the government runs in Nigeria. We run a federal system, so even though you have the federal government, just like the US, we do have the state governments, and they're quite empowered. So even though you enact a policy, if the states don't buy into it, it doesn't have to be implemented. So some of those policies were stuck at that level,
Yeah.
like things about right of way, if you're asking private companies to pay a huge amount to lay fiber, they wouldn't go to
Uh-huh.
places you want them to go, because they're not justified to do that, because the huge cost to lay that fiber to a village with 100 people or 400 people, they won't go. So what we are seeing now with the whole COVID, that there's been a big change. So most of those states are now, accepting the policy to say, okay, we'll waive the fees. Please, we need the infrastructure. So we're seeing that, a bit too late, but it's never too late. Because now it's
Never.
coming. You can't even lay the fiber now, because the whole construct requires that we reduce mobility. But, it just shows that
Yeah.
we are now reacting. But I wish we didn't react. I wish we were proactive. But of course, it's better to be late than never.
That's 100%. As long as they're coming to the party and they're doing things that are going to benefit, the people of the country as a whole. I mean, yeah, trust me, we are all. I think the whole of Africa, we tend to deal with that whole, reactive. Something, yeah, it's I think it's a phenomenon with everyone. So yeah, Jane, so tell me, how do you juggle, being a wife, a mom, a career woman, author, yeah, what else are you, yeah, the list goes on. So how do you juggle, is there such a thing as balance? And how do you do it?
Lucille, I was going to say you have the best answer, because you do it so well, girl. You do it so well. Yeah, but
uh,
if you ask me, frankly speaking, I don't think, for me, balance that's the tough one. I don't know if there's really anything like balance. I've never really bought into the idea of having, people say you want to have a balanced life. I believe in priority,
mhm.
prioritizing. And I think to prioritize, some things have to give, So I don't
Yeah,
believe I can have it all. I believe I can prioritize what is important to me and focus
yeah,
on those ones. So how do I do it? So it's easy. I know that if I've defined my priority, my family, my
yes,
spiritual life, work,
yeah,
my career development. So some other things are there, but they're not priorities. So if I'm in a phase that requires a lot of focus on
uh,
something, I just have to agree which are the things we have to deprioritize. So I'll give you an example. When I was writing the book, the first thing that went was, well, I love dancing. I used to go dancing. So I stopped dancing because I needed the time. Yeah.
oh,
Then after dancing, I love to golf. That was the next one that went. I stopped golfing. I'm like, I need the time. It got to a point I stopped going to the gym for like 9 months, because that also joined the list. I'm like, I need that time. So, things start to give, you start to give up things for priority. And I knew it's okay. It's just for a while. Once I'm done with this book, I'll go back to the gym. But just to say that you sometimes, you have to, I tell women, you have to dare to be bad. I can't do it all. Like, I
yeah,
can't be the perfect wife, the perfect mother to the kids, doing a marvelous
yes,
job with my career, and still be a good domesticated woman. No, something has to give. Like either you will not see me being domesticated because I wouldn't have the time. I can't be doing all this
Yeah.
writing a book and still trying to, scrub the floor, sweep the floor, make the bed, wash the dishes. You just have to decide some things can be outsourced. But I think it's also very important if you do it alongside the people you love. Like, because that was one of the good discussions I had when I was dating my husband. I'm like, I'm not domesticated. If that's the kind of wife you're looking for, you're talking to the wrong person. I can't even really cook.
Yeah, I think we have that struggle. Like me, I can cook and yeah, let's cook. But ask me to clean and it's
Oh, you
like,
can cook. I see your
okay.
cooking
But
pictures.
yeah, no, that one. Yeah,
Which is
but
true.
you're right saying, that there isn't really a balance as such. It's a really, what's important to you, and what it is that that you love, because you gotta I think you gotta have a mix between what's important to you and what you're passionate about, what keeps you going,
Going.
because they could be important for different reasons.
Yeah.
So you've got to have a mix of that, the things that are important, the things that keep you passionate. Because I think when you then kind of, okay, I almost used balance, but yeah, let's say if you balance out those kind of two things, you kind of feel like you are fulfilling different levels of things, and you generally feel fulfilled as a person. And when you fulfilled as a person, trust me, you will know how to keep them going. You'll know that, okay, I must get to a rugby game, I must get to the cooking, I must I'm going to do my work because I love the work that I'm doing. So it kind of just then becomes in sync, and things just start to work, and it kind of comes together somehow. Because trust me, I
Yeah, it
I
does. It
also,
does. Because
I do get that question a lot from people. How, like, all these things, especially when my kids were younger, and that was like really the early stages of my business. I was always, I'd drive from Bryanston, come all the way back to the, scream at a swimming match, be that embarrassing mom, then I'll rush back to Bryanston for a meeting, do a meeting, and then rush back home after, trust me, back to the West Rand, cook supper, and then sit there and smile like, whew, that wasn't stressful. Whew, I made it, but it just, it happens. And yeah, I just think, just have a combination, the things that are important
have
and the things that you love and passionate about.
I have a combination, like you said, and I say to women, be kind to yourself, because I think that's why we get stressed out, because we
Yeah.
want to do it all. We are tough on ourselves. When you didn't do this, you didn't do that, like you're so tough. But have you ever seen a man being that tough? Does he go and say, today because I couldn't make dinner, I'm so sad I couldn't make dinner, or today because I didn't show up for my, I'll give you one funny thing that happened. I remember once I showed up to drop my son off school, and everybody was
Mhm.
like dressed in green, I think, but he was wearing like his school uniform. And the teacher was like, and the other mothers, oh, you didn't know today is Earth Day or something, we were meant to dress in green. I'm like, oh no, I didn't know, I just flew back from Spain last night, was that an email? I'm like, oh, you're too busy, and I say, don't be hard. Let's be kind to ourselves. We can't, like, I'd rather he shows up to school wearing school uniform than he doesn't show up at all. Like, if he doesn't wear green or white, like, should we break the bank for that, Should we? So you have to be kind. Sometimes not everything. Just make sure that the things that fall off the table are the things that are not priority. That's what I tell people. Like, if he shows
That's
up in a school uniform
exactly
instead of green clothes, that's fine by me, you know.
also what you were saying is like, outsource, because my business also requires that I travel a lot, that it becomes hectic. There is one thing that I listen, I can rather not have money to buy Uber Eats, not to or to I not go out for girls with lunch, but one thing I made sure that I always have is an au pair who made sure my kids are, she'd tell me, so this is happening. When she knew that they're wearing green, she would come into the house and make sure that nanny knows green tomorrow, whatever. But that's exactly what it is. Where you need to outsource, you outsource to make
You
your life easier.
outsource.
Not mean you're a bad mother or you're not doing your best. You
No.
are required.
I think what
That
I
makes
learned from my coach, because at the time I was having this conversation with my coach, and she said, what is really important is being present and spending quality time with your kids. Because you can be at home the entire day and you didn't spend any quality time. They're probably doing something and you're doing something. You never really got to know them. So even though you're spending 1-2 hours, get to know your kids. It's better than spending the whole day and you're just in another room locked up and you're in some other room. So,
yeah.
it's good to know what is really important.
That's true. Jane, we have two questions that I see here from I am underscore Elizabeth Johnson. Hey Elizabeth, how are the men in Nigeria reacting to the strong breed of women coming up in almost every industry?
I don't know. I don't know if I have the authority to answer that question. But
I
I think
think
it's a bit of mixed feelings. It's a bit of mixed feelings. When I speak to some male folk, I see for some men it's confusing.
mm-hmm.
It is if you're in a society where for a long time, we've positioned like strong males, and now we're seeing women that actually probably sometimes are the breadwinners of their home or earn
Yeah,
more than their partners. And in the end, sometimes they're then trying to combine that with being the perfect wife, and sometimes to the point of giving up their power. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, I would say. That's what I would say. But I think what is becoming more important is for us as women to raise sons that can live with powerful women and strong, powerful women. I think that's what I was discussing with a friend of mine the other day. We have to raise sons that are not intimidated by such women. They actually accept that, because if my son appreciates his mother, when
yeah.
he sees a woman like his mother and he marries her, he wouldn't treat her like an object. He won't compete with her. He would respect her and see her as his partner rather than feel threatened by her. So
Yeah,
we need to raise sons that can cope.
I think us as mothers now raising, especially I've got teenage sons, we have quite a task, in our lives, because I mean we can just see just by the GBV what is happening, and for
Yeah.
me, I really equate that to a large portion of ill upbringing, not having proper role models. And that's what we also serve as for our kids, role models, whatever it is that that they see us doing, the teachings that we give to them, the example that we set for them, plays a huge contribution to the people that they become. So I think especially in our times right now, being a mother, girls has its like serious challenges right now. Being a mother to boys is just as hard, because I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
our work actually double, because it's the men are, yeah, they're coming from a lot, and it's not easy. A lot of girls can be in a circle of girls where they actually positively influencing each other, and they're learning from each other. But I'm not 100% sure that effectively happens in guy circles. Do they have honest conversations with each other? I honestly believe that if guys were having more honest conversations with each other, I think there will be less of the trauma that we're going through right now.
I think because I think because sometimes it's tough for the men, because I see sometimes my husband discussing with his friends. They have been trained to have this idea of who a man is, where you've literally defined your identity by your
Mhm.
ability to provide, your ability to protect. Now, when you see a woman that can do all that for herself and she just wants you because of the companionship, she
Yes.
doesn't really need your money. Just not, so you kind of feel threatened, and sometimes you feel like you've let your partner down when you can't provide those things. So it's tough on that, because that's how they've been trained. Like if you've been trained that if you don't provide, if you're not earning more than your wife, if you're not doing all those things, then you're not a man. it really hits them on their ego. That's why I say it's going to take a lot of like transforming that mindset, like re-educating our kids not to think that way, not to see life that way, not to define themselves by how much they earn and if they're able to, you know, to do all those things, but to define themselves as a human being with these core values, wanting to spend time with another human being with those core values and not in terms of the material things we bring on the table. That would really help. So it's tough. I know some of, you know, when they have their chat, they're like, you know what, you know, she's not earning this, you know, like you can see that the guy is feeling scared that, you know, the woman is not earning more, and what would that mean for him? Does that mean he's no longer the man of the house? You know, it's
that's not how, I just believe that that's not how you establish your place as the man in the house. But yeah, a lot of people think differently. But yeah, I guess it's each to their own. We have a question from Faith Dione. What best advice can you give us aspiring young female bosses? Because personally, I've tried working myself to be big, but constantly held back by men who think every woman wants it easy.
who thinks every woman wants? I didn't get the last part.
How she's constantly but constantly held back by men who think every woman wants it easy.
Oh, I think you just haven't found the right one.
but like what she's saying though, I mean, there's a lot of, let me use like an example. When I was, after I got a divorce, and I was in the market, you know, I honestly felt like I was hitting brick walls with the men that I was interacting, and they were never progressing to the next level, because I felt like they wanted me to dumb myself down. They wanted me to be less ambitious. They wanted me to be easy. You know, they wanted, let's go on date number one, and you know, it's bam, and you know, we in bed, or you know, it was just an easy ride. I really felt like a lot of men, as soon as you put some kind of challenge in their way, whether it's in terms of your ambition, your views, you know, I found a lot of them were making a use. A lot of them were making a U-turn, and I think that's how come you know, I have such a good connection with my current boyfriend, is because, you know, of many men that I encountered that generally, you know, turned because, you know, I'm independent. I can speak my mind. You know, I'm not gonna make it an easy road. And a lot of that time, because I was also very cautious about the type of men, you know, I had a lot of the time a brick wall up. So it wasn't easy to jump the brick wall, but you know, I valued a man that, you know, was never intimidated by it, but instead rose to the occasion, you know. But I hear what she's saying from a relationship point of view.
No, I do. I hear her. I do get her, because just like you said, when I was younger, like when I was still single, that was one of the biggest challenges I had. You know, I was at a level where I was doing so well, and sometimes I mentally felt like all the men at my level were all married. You know, so you were always being, you know, you were kind of intimidating to most men. So most of the men I would, you know, like, and I found that some of them were too, I even had a guy that was too intimidated to ask me out. And he literally knew I liked him, really liked him. I told him in every kind of manner. But, you know, at the end, when I confronted him, he told me like, he thought I was just too up there for him. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So you do have those cases. I'm not saying you don't. You would have men. I don't know, maybe it's the upbringing, is the culture, but we know because of the patriarchy in Africa, it is always a contribution, that they already thinking that way, that when a woman is too strong, she's vocal, she's forward, she's ambitious. Now that is the big threat to most men, because people want you to be subtle or to be sublime, and you don't put it out there. And today I tell my daughter, no, don't. Put it out there. If he goes, let him go. That he's not the right person for you, because you're not going to spend 30, 50, 40 years in a marriage trying to hide yourself. That's like living in a hell. You know, if you do this just to get the guy, what happens in the marriage? Are you going to be hiding yourself? Because you can't hide yourself for so long. You know, you can do it for a couple of years to get the guy. But when you're in the marriage, how long
Yeah.
can you hide yourself? You know, you still have to expose who you are, what you want, your desires. You can't. So that's why I would say it's a tough way to answer the question, but I'd rather say you stand for what you want. And one of the things I always say to younger women, what something I did, which then my friends thought that this was too way forward. I literally used to list what I would love to see in a man if I had to marry him. And I did that because it got tougher along the way. You know, it really got tougher. You know, you had people already defined you by all the external achievements, and
Yes.
you're either a threat or they're expecting you to tame it down or reduce it, or bring it all, tone it all down. Because you're not looking for a master or a lord, you're looking for a partner.
Yeah.
And if I can't get a partner, then that's a
For
problem,
partner.
because when we get into this marriage, then it's
Yeah.
going to be for years. It wouldn't work. So I'd rather you look at the long term. So play the long term game, rather pass on the short term ones. Like, yes, if you will find loads of people like that, there'll be lots of men like that. But if you play the long term game, then you rather keep your eyes open, but really know what you want. Men are very good at that. A woman just said, "Oh, tall, dark, and handsome." What's tall, dark, and handsome? They're like 90% of people tall, dark, and handsome. Character-wise, his finances, his attitude to failure. There's some things you're looking for. You don't have to write it down, but please have them in your head, because those things will be a
Yeah.
judge of character.
100%. And Faith, I think, from a career point of view, just keep showing up. Please keep standing up and showing, this is who I am. I'm Faith. I want to be this person. I'm good at this. This is the business. Keep showing up. Don't be afraid to keep knocking on the door, speaking your truth, standing out for what it is that you actually want. Never, ever dumb yourself down when it comes to your
Yeah.
ambitions. Keep, be persistent, be in their faces. Don't ever be shy to be who you are,
Who
in
you
order for you
are.
to
Own
reach
it.
the
Own it.
own
Own
it.
it. That is your strength. Own it.
Yeah. So sorry, Jane, we're running out of time. So before we normally end the session, we do a quick trivia. So it's a general knowledge
Okay.
trivia that we're gonna, yes. Just gonna see how smart are you. Are you smarter than a sixth grade? So
I
yeah,
hope I am.
I'm going to ask you 3 questions quickly before we close off. The first question, and this is very easy, I think. Which political leader was elected president of South Africa in 1994?
That should be Mandela.
Yeah, okay.
That's Mandela. I got that
Oh,
one right at least.
smarter than a 6th grader. Okay. What is the longest river in the world?
River Nile.
Yay! Wow. I'm the first person guest that I've had that's gotten 2 out of 3 so far.
Yay!
Let's see if you get this last one right. What is the
Okay, I'm
capital
all
of
ready. I'm
Canada?
all ready.
What is the capital of Canada?
Toronto.
Nope.
Toronto is the capital.
Not according to the quiz book. I got
Oh, no, no. Montreal. No, it's not Montreal.
no.
Gee, how
Zoe?
can I find Quebec?
Huh?
Is it Quebec?
No.
Wow.
Anyone know it? Elizabeth, do you know it? Anyone else? I see Elizabeth.
How can I fail that? I literally went to Canada.
Yeah. So, okay. The answer to that one is Ottawa.
Ottawa. Oh, yeah. Oh, gee. Oh, I feel bad now. Did anybody answer it there? I feel bad.
I would have gone with Toronto as well. So, if yeah, literally gone with the option. But yeah. Oh, okay, Elizabeth, late, but thank you so much. Ottawa, yes, 100%.
Yeah, someone help me there. Thank you, Elizabeth.
So much, Jane, for your time. It was really great talking to you. All the best with your book journey. Guys, her book is
Thank you.
available on if you're interested in
Yes,
buying.
it is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, or you can follow her on her Instagram page as well for more information on that. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate a woman who's passionate about the plight of women, especially in career spaces where women can proudly begin to own their spaces and be leading women
Yeah.
in their society and in the world. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it and enjoy talking to you. Everybody who joined us, thank you so much.
Thank you
Good.
for having me and have a good evening, girl. Bye.